Tyler, do you ever take that hood off?
This is the way.
Is it just because you're too lazy to shower and comb your hair? Is that really it?
Th- This is the way. I never
Hmm.
take the hood off.
But this is on Skype. It's not a living thing. You can take the hood off.
That's right.
You have a point. But
I
this is the way.
Sure it is. I actually don't want you to take it off. I don't want to know what's under there. Hello and welcome to Ignore the Bell. My name is Nathan.
I'm Tyler.
And I'm Luke.
And this is a review of the final episode of season 1 of The Mandalorian, episode 8. What's the title of this one?
Redemption, I think.
Redemption. Episode 8, Redemption. So we're going to be having a review and a discussion of the episode. Before we get into that, we do have a sponsor for today's episode. So our sponsor for today is dark sabers. When you really want a lightsaber, but you have a photosensitivity. You know, you're sensitive to sunlight and it's too bright. Ow, it hurts. Then you need to get a dark saber. Tyler, I think that's what you'd have to have.
That's very true. Yeah.
You would, if you ever got a lightsaber, you'd be like, my eyes, it's too bright. Looking at a dark saber.
Yeah.
I think that I've effectively ruined the dark saber cool factor for all these people who are so excited about this thing, because I know a lot of people are very, very excited about this, and I'm just like, okay, it's a dark saber.
Yeah,
But
I know we are definitely going to get into that.
yes,
Because
you're going to explain it to us. You're going to explain
Yeah.
it to us. All right, folks, I hope you enjoy.
Oh man, I wish this discussion could go on forever.
Ignore the bell. We're gonna keep going, people.
All right, so we are talking episode 8, Redemption of The Mandalorian. So I guess what we're going to do is maybe we'll give a couple brief comments and then we'll get into the actual plot and kind of move our way through the episode. So overall, I was happy. I wish we had more of this for the entire season. This was great, and not just because we get backstory in this, because I'm fine. I'm very patient as a viewer. I could have waited much longer for some of this backstory, like hearing his name and all of that. And I thought it was already very clear what happened to him as a kid. So I don't know why we needed an extra scene for that, because it was like, yeah, we got it. But anyway, but overall, this was a pretty fun episode with a few moments that slipped into a bunch of silliness that this show seems to do, where you just go, oh, wow, this is so good. This is so well done. And you go, that was stupid. And then it kind of comes back to, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts overall.
Yeah, no, I would agree. The action sequences are really great. I think some of the comedy does not really land, to say the least. And oh dear, did we lose Nathan?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Your image froze.
Oh,
I'll move around more.
I think
Okay, yeah, you're good. Sorry. But yeah, no, lots of action. Some of the comedy was a little meh. And yeah, I don't know. We overall very, very good, but definitely some odd moments.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that very much describes the last episode as well. And not just the show in general, but yeah, so I totally agree with both of you.
Yeah. All right, so let's start working our way through the episode. So remind me, where does this one start?
This one starts off, I believe, with the two stormtroopers.
Yeah.
On their speeder bikes.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
First of all, that one guy is a monster. He keeps beating Baby Yoda. Just awful.
I think they had to establish that it's okay to kill these dudes.
I guess.
But yeah, I don't understand why stormtroopers are...
I think I got it. It's
okay.
They heard our podcast and they heard that the Empire is being portrayed as the heroes, and they wanted these two to look like villains again. And so they just had them punch Baby Yoda multiple times.
Yeah, I guess, because honestly, because that's what I've been saying is that the villains are not villainous, but so then they're like, what is the laziest way to make them villainous? Get them to punch a baby. Get them to punch what like society seems to have agreed is the cutest baby of all time. So a baby Yoda. And then it's like, oh, just get them to like abuse it for a few moments, and then we'll establish that they're villains. Okay, it still doesn't make sense. Why? Because like the other stormtrooper is like, you hit him pretty hard. Maybe like he's hurt. I need to like that. It's like he did. Don't you think that like you guys should try to take care of this thing before you turn it over to your commander?
Yeah. I like it was just like the most pointless conversation I feel like in the world that went on way too long, and then of course we had to see them try and shoot whatever it was and miss every single shot to remind us that they're terrible aim, and like, oh my goodness, it was just so pointless.
I think that this scene is best described as a lost robot chicken sketch. Because it is exactly like what you would see on Robot Chicken. It's just like, oh yeah, this little side story about the stormtroopers. It doesn't actually matter, but what do they do when we're not around and when we're not looking at them? And it's such like, just waiting for our commander to respond. Any update? No, okay. Like it's so stupid.
So I thought it was great because it felt like a moment of metafiction or meta theatricality, because basically I think Disney has got stormtrooper aim. At least when it comes to making Star Wars movies, Disney itself has got that kind of aim. It's like, there's the target, should be super easy to hit. How many like times do we get to shoot at this? Plenty. You get like, we've had 5 so far, 5 Star Wars movies, right? It's like, how many times? All right, missed, really missed.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I'm like, are they stand-ins for like Kathleen Kennedy and what's his name who's in charge of Disney? Iger? Is that it?
Yeah, Bob Iger.
Yeah. Like I think that's who was playing the stormtroopers.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that scene is enjoyable, but it does not fit this series at all.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think they can't help themselves. But we haven't really seen that on this show. I'm trying to. I feel like that's kind of like it was like a moment from like Stranger Things season 2 or season 3, where it's like the writers come up with something that they think is really funny, and sometimes it's like that is funny, but it doesn't fit with the tone of this series at all, and they just can't help themselves. Like I know that I've done that a couple times, like when I'm writing, then in my original draft, then I'll have something in a book, and then it'll usually be a funny thing, and it's so funny that I just want to have it in there, and then I've had my wife just say, yeah, but it doesn't fit, and I'm like, you're right, okay, I'll put it somewhere else, or I'll just cut it, and I do cut it, but I think these writers are just like, this is too funny to cut. They just insist on keeping it in, and
this would have been it would have been great as like a short or something to accompany this episode.
That
like,
would be
just as a completely separate thing. It would have been fine, but yeah.
So anyway, and then I guess I think, does it then flash back like or jump over to our heroes being pinned down in that?
Yeah, except for first IG-11 comes in and like kills the stormtroopers, takes the baby Yoda, and then we go to the other heroes.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure like if it split between those two different scenes, if we jump between them. But okay, yeah. So IG-11, he takes them out, and we've already established it's perfectly fine for these guys to die because they punch a baby Yoda. So
yeah.
All right, so then we get into we get some names, right?
Yes.
We jump to the other scene, then we get a whole bunch of names. So Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, I forget the actor's name. I think it's
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So he is a Moff, apparently. So a Moff, that's just a rank, is that right?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
And is this establishing, even though this is supposed to, like, I thought that the Empire was disbanded essentially, but I guess they're still maintaining some structure?
Well, yeah, I guess so, because I think it's like um they've all been kind of like, well, like the empire as a whole is gone, but like there are parts of it still there, and I guess they keep their structure, but like it's not like a complete structure where like this Moff reports to someone. I think it's just like he's just taken his soldiers and is like, all right, well, now we're just our own group of the empire now.
Right. Yeah. So I guess basically he's saying, hey, I have worked so hard to get promotion after promotion in the Empire, and I am not giving up my title as Moff.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard I worked? How many people I had to see get force choked in front of me? That's how I got promoted. I'm not giving this title up. I don't care if the Emperor's gone, but not really. I don't care if Vader's gone or anything like that. I'm keeping my title.
Yeah. Now, okay, is he a Grand Moff or is he just a regular Moff?
I think he's just a regular Moff, but I don't really know.
We have to
Because
see
that actually was a Robot Chicken sketch where they're like debating which level of Moff is higher than another.
Yeah. Does he have
It's like, well, I'm a great
grandchildren?
Moff. That's not higher than Grand Moff, isn't it?
I think it depends on like whether your children have had children. Congratulations, you're now a grand moff. Aw, you're now a great grand moff. Thank you, I'm so proud. All right, so we find out that he's a moff of some sort. We don't know exactly what level, and he's just hanging on to that title. And then he calls them out by name. So Carl Weathers, he calls him out by name. Mando, we get his name, and I want to get them right here. So, do you guys remember Mando is what? Jin?
No, I think it's Din Djarin?
Din Djarin.
Jardin, I think. Din Djarin.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that.
And
I don't remember.
yeah, and I know that we get Carl Weathers' name gets mentioned there.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy
something. Oh man,
something Monty, or no, maybe not Monty, but it's something like
Kargan.
Yes, Kargas, I think, is his last name.
Okay, so my point with all of this is, what difference does it make with knowing their names?
None.
Nothing.
That's the thing, is like they've been holding out the entire time. Same thing like when we like finally get the reveal that, and I was so terribly disappointed that Mando was not a droid, and
Right.
you know what I mean? That was so sad. But anyway, when you get the reveal of his face, it's like they've been teasing us with these things to some degree of like, ooh, the man with no name, except we'll just random.
Oh, I think your mic cut out. You're back on. Oh wait.
Okay, so like we get his name, but it makes no difference. We see his face, but it makes no difference. It's like, oh, okay, it's a guy with a face. Like,
Yeah.
we already figured that. And we figured that these guys have got names, but it's not important to the story. So this wasn't some satisfying reveal of, oh, good, now we know that his name is Din Djarin or whatever. Great.
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know if anyone is going to remember his name. Like, it's just
He's
like
Mando.
I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, I couldn't remember his name like right after they said it. I was just like, wait, what'd they say his name was? And then he said it later, and I was just like, I still don't remember your name, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I'm sure that it starts with Din, which is such an odd name, but
So basically, all that this does is it then inspires us to get into the backstory, because it's like, oh, this dude must have been at this planet when my parents died. Is that right? Is that what it was trying to establish?
yeah. And then also we get the reveal that Mando is not actually Mandalorian, which I have been
Right.
saying from the start. Like he's
Yeah.
he's
Did
not actually
anybody, like,
Mandalorian.
did anybody think he was? Like,
I know. That's what I'm
like,
saying. Like, it's these big dramatic reveals. You know what I mean? It's like you've been married for 2 years, and it's like, honey, yes, I have feelings for you. Bah, bah, bah. Yeah, I kind of figured. Like,
Yeah.
I figured from everything up until this point, there were enough clues that it's not a big surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the show definitely we were talking about this before we recorded, but the show just had its Titanic moment where Rose is like, "There's no room on the door for you," and Leonardo DiCaprio's like, "Seems like there is, but it's okay, that's fine. I wasn't that attached to life anyway." And so, because then the parents put him into this little bunker thing, this storm shelter that they've got, which, by the way, his parents were apparently huge drug runners. Did you not see it? That place was lined with cocaine. It was just bags and bags of cocaine wrapped up. It's the cellophane with the white and like kind of that packing tape. That's exactly what the Colombians do. That's how they ship it. I've seen a lot of these drug movies and shows. Like you watch Narcos, you go, oh, that's what it is. So his parents were involved in the drug trade. That's why the Empire showed up.
Right.
I don't know what that stuff was supposed to be, but
I wonder if that's a reference to The Force Awakens and that instant rising bread with the 1/4 portion, and you just like mix it with water and it instantly turns into bread, because that was like powder, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like where they kept their rations.
Yeah, that would be my guess, but I know it.
Their rations of cocaine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there was definitely room for the parents in there, and I think they were just done. They're like, we didn't really like you anyway. We're kind of done with being parents.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Like, in any other movie or show that does this sort of, leaving the child and then running away, usually it doesn't make sense. But most of the, like...
What about in Rogue One?
Quite frequently, then it's because they are after the parents. And so the parents run off in order to bring whatever enemy with them. But this, and it's like, it seems like the droids are just killing everybody. They don't care. So just hide with him.
Yeah, it seemed like they put him in the bunker, closed it, and then instantly were killed, and the droids walked over, opened it, and got killed by the Mandalorians. Like, that's how it seemed. Like, it just seems like right after the bunker was closed, his parents just got shot, and then the droids found him. I'm like, you hid him for nothing, basically. Like,
that was stupid.
And we got to see this like flashback for nothing. I mean, and I say for nothing, but I think it's just that this is Disney doing what it does, which is assuming if they are ever unsure about whether children will get it, they never assume a kid is going to either ask somebody older or do a little bit of research, because kids are all, like almost all kids are capable of Googling, right?
Right.
But they're going to be watching with somebody who's older, who will get it, who will explain it to them. But Disney's just like, we better make this perfectly clear. And that's where I feel like what Disney has done with so much of this is not so much, this is a really good, sophisticated sci-fi show. It's just like, it kind of approaches that, and then it's like, wait, let's get back down to the level of children to make sure they understand. And a lot of kids will watch stuff that's a little bit beyond their level, and then they'll just rely on people who are slightly older to explain it to them.
Yep.
But Disney is terrified of that happening. I guess they feel like parents are just using the internet and Disney Plus to babysit.
Yeah, that's what it seems.
Accurate. But...
right. But like, I don't know. Like, it just feels like after The Empire Strikes Back, no one knows how to make a Star Wars reveal. Like, they'll try to be like, oh, look at this surprising fact of information, but all they do is they just say kind of like, it's like if someone just like walked into this room and just came into the background of my frame and just was like, oh yeah, guess what happens at the end of this episode, and then leaves. And then like, that's just kind of what it is. It's not like an important detail anymore. It's just like a brief mention. And that's like every reveal in Star Wars since Vader reveals that he is Luke's father. Like, it's just, oh yeah.
I'd argue one in Rise of Skywalker, but we'll get into that in a different discussion.
Like, it's always just like, oh yeah, and I'm where's your brother or your sister? So that's just kind of there. Right. And then in this, it's just like, oh yeah, The Mandalorians kind of got me. Oh, and here's my face, and I'm like, these aren't shocking. Like,
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I don't know whose mind they think they're blowing with these reveals.
like I was hoping that in this they would be like, oh, you think that the Mandalorian saved him from the droids, but really it was this guy who becomes the Moff, and then eventually he like became a part of the Empire, but then he was taken by the Mandalorians and became a Mandalorian. And I was like, oh, okay, that could be really interesting. But then they're just like, no, he was just saved by the Mandalorians. I
Right.
was like, oh.
Too convoluted for the simple-minded viewers, apparently.
Yes. So anyway, with all of this, this episode was frustrating at times where there's far too many stormtroopers for us to take on. And then they take on all of them. And, do you know what I mean? Like, because they're like, well, we have nothing to do, so we're just pinned down. And then this Moff dude is like, all right, I've got you right where I want you. I'm going to give you until sundown. Why?
Yeah.
Why is he giving them time to... I didn't understand that at all.
No idea. How far off is sundown, too? Like,
Yeah.
It seems like that would be like 8 hours or something. Like,
I don't get it. What was it that he said that he wanted? Like,
I don't even remember.
yeah, I don't know what it was that like. Was he just saying surrender or I'll shoot you?
I think so.
And you guys have until sundown to think about it?
Or like at least join him or something.
Okay.
Yeah, he wanted their cooperation.
Right, cooperation.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
But then IG-11 shows up. And then just like, wow.
Okay. Like,
Yeah.
Okay. It's like he lost all his programming, had to learn to walk and to hold a glass again. But suddenly he just comes in and is still the most amazing warrior in the galaxy.
I forgot about that.
He's better than he was before.
Yeah.
Much better. How
Like,
much rehab did he get? How
I
long
know,
has this been? Because it was like this momentous moment for him in his recovery of like being able to like pick up a glass and set it down, and it's just like, this is so moving, look at the skills he's acquiring. And then like just like what, a few days later he's spinning his head around, shooting everything.
Like, oh my goodness, it was like I was just like, okay.
What a terrible nurse. He chooses. He's like, oh, you know what's the best thing now that I've recovered the child? Let's bring the child right into the whole battle. Like, and just guns blazing the whole way.
Why did he even do that with his programming to protect the child?
No.
And he's holding the child like on his stomach while he's shooting all these people. I'm like, if someone could just shoot you in the stomach and kill Baby Yoda.
He just does the spinneroo, right?
Turns it around.
Yeah. But I'm like, you really better make sure nobody's behind you then. But okay. And what about flak from, like everything exploding and ricochets? And, okay. But anyway, so we get all of that. So he comes in there, he takes out almost everyone, and I didn't understand. There's so much inconsistency in this episode where they look at this grate, they can't remove it. She just shoots it like crazy, and then it still doesn't do anything. And it's like, oh, I guess like that doesn't work. But then when they need the boat, then they're trying to push it, and then she's like, oh wait, I just failed at this. Let me just shoot this thing like crazy, and then it works.
Yeah.
Yep.
I understand that she was like shooting at like some kind of like concrete or something like that the second time. But I still don't. But why didn't she just shoot at the concrete around the grate to remove?
I mean, the other inconsistency is with in A New Hope, right? Then they shoot at one of those same grates. Like, it looks the exact same, and it just blows a hole right in the center of it. And then they hop down it. So it's just like, why is this giant rifle not able to
So much
cut
of the
through the
physics
crate?
of this are based off of plot convenience. When
Yeah.
it's convenient to the plot, then it'll work. When it's and when it's convenient to the plot to make it not work, then it won't work. Whatever
Yeah.
they need it to do, that's what it's going to do. These blaster guns, they can either like punch through a wall or they can't, depending on whether you want more suspense or less suspense.
Yeah.
Right? And so anyway, but IG-11 is able to take that thing out no problem. And then Mando is all like, I can't go. Leave me behind. Save the baby. And then
Yeah.
you get this
Huge
whole thing.
explosion in his face. He gets thrown from the explosion. And,
Yeah.
and
Okay, like explosions and plane crashes in this universe mean absolutely nothing. Like, if you have a bomb that's strapped to your chest and it explodes, you'll probably survive. And if you go down with the ship and it explodes, you'll probably survive. And
Except only
so,
some ships explode when they hit
yeah,
things. Like Moth's ship, his TIE fighter thing, whatever it is, I guess it's not exactly a TIE fighter. Is it?
I don't even know. It looks like a regular TIE fighter, but it's probably a special TIE fighter for him because I think the wings
Right.
close when he lands.
That's
which,
what I was. Yeah.
I mean,
Anyway, his ship just hits the ground with a thud.
yeah,
Okay.
like, it's just like, okay, I guess no one dies from plane crashes in Star Wars.
right.
Not when it's convenient for them to keep the person alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so then IG-11 ends up, like everybody else, go on, save the baby. I can't possibly abandon this baby, except I'll abandon it, right? So
Yeah.
then he just gives it over to these two other people who seem incapable of taking care of this thing. And then he has his like Macbeth moment where you get, what's her name? Or what's his
Cara
name?
Dune?
Yeah, but it's not with her. It's in Macbeth where essentially Macbeth believes that he can't be. I think it's Macduff who ends up taking him out in the end.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no man born of woman can defeat me. And then it's like, oh, but my mom had me by cesarean, so I was not born of a woman. And he's like, oh no, I've made a grave miscalculation. And then he dies. That's basically it. It's that Mando has somehow never figured this out. Like, droids can be my best friends. I can take off my helmet in front of them because they're not really people.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that moment though. I think that moment really works. With him, not wanting to trust droids all his life and whatever, and then the only thing that can help him is taking off his helmet in front of a droid. And yeah, I don't know, it worked for me.
I did think that was a pretty good moment, and yeah, I think it worked. And yeah, I just really like how it was done in character terms, but it felt like throughout the season they were just like they hyped it up too much as a reveal.
Yeah.
And like that's the only issue I have with it, because other than that I liked it. But
yeah, I thought that the scene worked pretty well also. I like this whole like go on without me, I'm a goner, that whole thing. I thought that was good, where you get to see him being self-sacrificing to save the baby, and you already got his backstory, so you're like, okay, part of the reason why he saves the baby, or most of the reason why he saves the baby is because it's a foundling like him, and he really identifies with that, and he's like, yeah, I need to be able to do whatever it takes to save this child because it's been abandoned in whatever way or kidnapped, just like what happened to me when I was a kid and all of that. I just thought that it was like the reveal of his face was like fine, but yeah, they built it up way too much for an unknown reason. And then second of all, this whole like the logic behind it of, well, can I remove the helmet? Well, I'm not a living being, and it felt just so much like, I don't know, like a teenage boy trying to convince a teenage girl why it's okay to do whatever in the backseat of his car. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, technically, see, if we do this, then it doesn't count as that. Like it felt like, do we need the logic? Just like remove your helmet to get healed. I
bet IG-11 took a picture of his face with his programming and then just sent it everywhere. He's just like uploaded to the Star Wars internet, and now he's like, "I got you, Mando. I was trying to get you this whole time, and now I've done a face reveal."
I guess I'm just saying that if these Mandalorians, how is it that this is the first time he's ever heard the logic of this? Of a droid doesn't count as a living being, so if you're injured, then you can rely on a droid to be able to see your head, your face, to heal you or something. Like, I just don't understand why this was the first time that he kind of thought it through. It just it felt so much like this droid trying to convince him to do something that he really doesn't want to do. It's like, I don't know. Are you sure? It's like, I'm a droid. It's perfectly fine. Oh, I don't know. It doesn't feel quite right. You have no other choice. Do it. Like, I was just like, I don't need this. Just take off the damn helmet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then they go into the sewers. They go and find this pile of Mandalorian armor, and oh no, they've all been eliminated except for the armorer.
Oh, your mic out again, I think.
Yeah. But the metalsmith is there, and I don't know, they get a discussion there. She says, "Okay, you're now basically the Yoda creature's father. You should train it to be a Mandalorian, but also find its people and return it to them." Which is a weird, seemingly contradictory statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get that, and then also she's insistent that she's not going anywhere, and then she gives him his jetpack, which he then is able to put on over top of his cloak, but somehow his cloak is not in between the jetpack and the back of his armor. Why did they do it like that? It was so dumb. It's just like all that they had to do is just like him just grab the cloak and then just kind of put it over his shoulder and then be like, awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but like, so now it kind of seems like he's gonna start his own like Mandalorian clan, because like, which that's really interesting, especially with what happens at the end, and so yeah, I'm really excited to see what goes forward with that. But I guess I'll talk about that in a little bit, and we'll go through the rest of the sewer parts. So wait, does the armor smith die?
I don't think
I
that we
don't
see.
believe so.
Yeah, we don't see what happens to her. I'm presuming that she's fine because we didn't see the death on screen.
She's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I like that hammer and how she just like smashes like through the armor of of the stormtroopers.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah.
And then anyway, they get down to like the river Styx, where you have got the boat droid who turns out to have limbs, and it's like really disturbing. They're like, "What's happening?" And it's like, "I have arms and legs."
Yeah.
Like, that R2 unit has got arms and legs. What do we do? And then it's like, "Don't worry about me. I'm just a gondola." Like a gondola pilot or whatever.
Gondolier. Yeah.
Gondolier. Thank you. Yes. So he's just a gondolier who gonna like move them down the river Styx.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really understand why we needed a lava river, and I mean I understand why they needed it for plot convenience, but yeah.
There was so much that was confusing, because then the strange thing is they somehow can't get this thing to move. They're trying, and then the R2 unit is able to, like, even though they kind of establish that there's a current with the river.
Yeah.
But then he like is like, "Where do you want to go?" They're like, "Downriver." And it's like, well, where else are you gonna go? Anyway.
Right.
So with this, like, anyway, so they start moving down the river, and then they're like, "Stop!" And then he stops, and it keeps moving. Why are we moving? I don't know, guys. Physics. Like,
Yeah.
You already had forward motion, and there's a current to this thing. So even if you start paddling or like propelling yourself forward, Like, so then she just kills, like, or destroys the R2 unit because she doesn't understand physics. Like, damn it.
Well, he was still going though, even after they said stop, and then she killed him.
Okay.
But I don't know why she thought that killing him would stop it. Just
Yeah, and also nitpick here, but like this R2 unit is only rowing on one side of the boat. They should be crashing into the wall. But anyway, like
if it's getting enough like resistance against the bottom of this river, then I think you could probably steer a little bit.
okay, okay. If he's like hitting the bottom of it, I
Yeah.
guess it's not that deep.
Yeah, it's not a
okay,
paddle.
yeah, yeah.
It's-
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, it was just weird. Like,
But-
that was just a really odd part. Like how they just were like, oh, we're moving, so like let's just shoot this guy, and then they're
Why are we still
moving.
moving?
Yeah,
Because
like
of
it's
physics.
and then like
Yeah.
then we get the amazing T2 death scene. Where
Yes.
he just hops out of the boat and walks through lava. He should have done that while he explodes. He should have just stuck a
Yes.
thumbs up.
Yeah, but what I don't understand, because it goes from confusing into more confusing, because
Yeah.
then Mando is looking, and I guess his vision can see through the concrete
Wow.
exit to the river, and then he sees that there's got to be like an entire, what did he say, platoon,
Squadron.
Yeah, I think he said platoon.
Platoon.
whatever. So there's too many of them, and then you see how many there are. It's like, you guys definitely took out more than that before.
Yeah, there was like 6 on each side, maybe. Like there was
Well,
barely
at first
any.
it looked like there was only like 6, and then you saw that there were even more. But when he
Yeah.
looks, he
Yeah.
doesn't see that many.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then it just becomes this immediate thing of IG-11 goes into a situation where it's like a much more vulnerable position to be in, where you don't have anything to hide behind, and carrying a baby Yoda takes on all of these guys
Mhm.
earlier in the episode. And then with this one, you've got to some degree the element of surprise, and you've got a decently fortified position as you're coming out of there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and it's immediately like, no, there's no way, we can't possibly win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is a bit odd. And I also think that this show did not earn Mando's sadness over IG-11
Yeah.
sacrificing himself. That was just no, he's not terribly sad. I don't care. He's just not.
Because Mando thinks that he's still the only one in the entire galaxy who can see his face, and he's excited that he can finally take the helmet off in front of someone. But unfortunately, he dies, so now Mando is stuck with still being confused at which droids are okay to show his face to. And so that deeply saddens him. But yeah, there was no reason he should have been that sad.
Yeah.
And then, so then they get attacked by the TIE fighter, who's like that's being piloted by the Moff, which I really like this sequence because like I like how when Mando uses the jetpack, it's not just like, oh, I can do all these great maneuvers and stuff. He just goes straight up, and then that's like pretty much it, which I liked because it's not just like, oh, I am amazing at using this jetpack, even though I've never used one before.
I agree.
I mean,
But then he ends up being awesome at it. And how do we know that he's awesome at this thing? Because it was already established, oh, you need to like really work at this thing. And basically it's sort of like on your computer, if you use a voice to text translator, it takes a while for it to recognize your voice.
Yeah.
Your pronunciation and accent and all of that. So that's basically what it seems to be with the jetpack, is that it's going to take a while before you and the jetpack are in sync. But then, so yeah, at first he just shoots up into the air, and then he barely manages to land. And then it's like, wow, that was really reckless, but what choice did you have? Okay. And then he's like, give me the most vulnerable, being possible. I'm going to hold it, and I'm now going to start the jetpack again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
true.
he jets off with Baby Yoda.
That's right. I
I'm
kind
like,
of forgot about
what?
that. Yeah.
You had no control over this thing. Why would if you see what I'm saying? It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I've never flown a plane before, but let me take that little infant in here as well. The chances of me dying in a fiery wreck are quite high, but this is fine.
Yeah.
So I thought there was inconsistency because at first I'm like, yes, this is good. He seems clumsy with it. It seems kind of reckless, but what is he going to do? And then he
Yeah.
just jets off with Baby Yoda.
Yeah, that's right. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about that part. So yeah,
It was good
no,
until it
that's
wasn't.
weird. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so he jets up, he destroys one of the arms connecting to one of the wings of the TIE fighter, which sends it spinning out of control. Um, uh, Cara Dune and Carl Weathers, then they say, "Nah, we're gonna stay here for some reason." And Mando
mm,
says, "No, I want you with us." And they're like, "Nah." And he's like, "Okay."
I'll see you in season
Um,
2.
right. Yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and yeah, that's I don't know. That's fine because I don't really
Yeah.
want them to be with Mando the whole time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. And that's basically it, right?
And
Just
then there is the dark saber
oh,
moment.
sorry, the dark saber.
Yes.
Yes, I know
Yeah,
this
it
is
takes out the
massive
dark saber and
for
then cuts out the hole, which that was the part that just I actually my jaw dropped when that part happened because I was not expecting that. I was like,
So
wow,
yeah,
like
so the dark saber, is that using a black kyber crystal? Is that right?
um I am not really sure at this point because kyber crystals in like canon don't really have a color. It's just like they take a color when like you use the lightsaber because it like the you connect with the kyber crystal, so like it like spiritually realizes like who you are as a person. That's what
oh.
determines what the blade color will be.
Is it like
What?
a mood ring? So that it's
Pretty
like
much, because like
it's like, oh, you're sad today. It's so blue.
well, it
Doesn't
doesn't
make any
change color,
sense.
like it doesn't like change color all the time. It just like has one color, but then if you
Right.
like go to the dark side, then you like bleed a crystal, which is like you put your dark side energy into it, which like makes the crystal like take a dark side form or something. It's kind of weird, but
I'm very
so
upset by this. There are so many instances in like at least in the first six films, where like they're just using somebody else's lightsaber and it's just the same color, or whatever. It's just like,
yeah,
oh,
it's
here,
only
take this. They are established as it's just one color. Sorry, I
um
don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but that
well
just doesn't
like
make any sense to me.
um I don't know. It's hard to confuse, or it's hard to explain. Wow,
Yeah, it
that
makes
was
sense to
English.
me. If it's
But
like a mood ring, if I have it on that and then you put it on, it's not going to immediately change.
well, I don't think it's not really like that. It's like it only takes the color for like this person, but like you have to focus to change like the color of
Oh,
the blade if you take it from someone else. Because like with Sith, then they have to kill a Jedi, take their lightsaber, and then that becomes theirs, and they make it bleed, which makes it red. But they have to like really put a lot of energy into making it bleed. So anyway, it's confusing. So I have no idea how the dark saber got a black blade, but
Okay.
like, yeah, it's kind of weird. But anyway, um, the real importance of it is that like whoever holds it is like the leader of the Mandalorians. Like they're just the leader of the Mandalorians.
Oh.
And so I was like, whoa, like I can really see where everything happened because like the last we know of the Mandalorians from uh, anything else canon was that they were basically taken over by the Empire, and they've just kind of had to do whatever the Empire wants them to. But then eventually, one of the characters from Star Wars Rebels, who is a Mandalorian, she like takes the dark saber and like eventually takes it from them and like kind of leads the Mandalorians to like separate from the Empire. So I'm guessing somewhere along the line, the Emperor, or not the Emperor, but the Empire had to have taken it back. I don't really know how. Um, so I'm interested to see how they like explain what happened there, and also kind of what like all the other Mandalorians in the show's reaction is going to be, because like I'm sure Mando must know its importance, and so like yeah, I'm just really excited to see where they take it for season 2, because I think this is going to be like where we get into like some really big stuff.
So it
go ahead, Ty.
kind of like the papal staff or whatever. It's like, oh, it's this powerful object that as soon as you see it, you're like, oh, this person is the like best of whatever. Like they're our leader now. Is that
yeah?
Okay?
Because basically the way you would get it, like the Darksaber, is you would have to like challenge someone to one-on-one combat, and like that's how they determine who the best is, which is why they're the leader, because they're like the best at like the best warrior among them, and then so they become the leader, and so yeah, pretty much that.
Okay, but so you're saying that this Moff Gideon dude, that you think that he acquired it from battle, or that he stole it?
I would think that he stole it somehow.
So,
Well, I think it's more so probably that like the Empire like well, probably like I don't know, kind of enslaved the Mandalorians at some point during the original trilogy, and then in doing that, we're just like, all right, well, we're gonna take the Darksaber from you, or maybe even killed a lot of the Mandalorians, because I don't know why they would just capture them, because the Mandalorians were already working for them, so obviously that doesn't work. So they might have even killed them, which would be really interesting.
so there's only one of these things. There's only one Darksaber.
Yeah,
And so
because it was
basically, what you're saying is that Mando is eventually going to be wielding this Darksaber.
pretty much. And
100%.
yeah,
Like, I will bet everything. I'm not even a
yeah.
better, and I guarantee you he's going to be wielding this
Yeah.
thing. If it's that significant to the Mandalorians, and we've established that basically all the Mandalorians are gone, and he's going to like reestablish his own little Mandalorian crew, then that's very obvious where the show is going, which
Yeah.
is fine.
Yeah, and I think
Here's
this is going to be how they explain how the Mandalorians have made peace with the Jedi, because like because the Darksaber was made by the first Mandalorian Jedi, and then he died, and then the Mandalorians were like, well, we want his Darksaber, but the Jedi were like, well, we also want it because like he was a Jedi, and like we want to keep that with us. But then the Mandalorians were like, well, no, you're stealing something that's a part of our like our culture and everything. So, and that's pretty much what happened to start the fight between, well, the war between the Jedi and Mandalorians, because then the Mandalorians steal it, and then the Jedi basically get angry and fight them. So, yeah, I definitely think Mandalorian, like that Mando is gonna wield it, but I also think that it's gonna be like, because he's going on a journey to find the Jedi so he can bring Baby Yoda to them. And so
Yeah.
I think that when he starts using the Darksaber, he's definitely going to be like, well, no, I don't want to fight you anymore because I like Jedi because Baby Yoda.
Okay, here are my quick predictions. I predict that Mando will acquire the Darksaber, and then before the end of whatever episode it is that he acquires it, he will destroy it, so that nobody else can wield it. And so that's my one thing. I also feel like the only Jedi that's around at this point is Luke. So I feel like
No,
this is after.
Oh, right. I'm always getting confused with this show. But okay, yeah, so it's Luke.
Yeah, so the only one that's around is Luke. So I
There.
predict that we will definitely get Mark Hamill making a cameo appearance,
Oh my
maybe
goodness,
on the
I hope
last
so.
episode, and they're going to do all that de-aging stuff on him so that he looks like he's, you know, whatever in his 30s instead of being
I
however old he
would
is now.
I would love that, but I'm slightly worried that because at the end of Star Wars Rebels, then one of the main characters, Ezra, who is a Jedi, he is just like he just gets thrown into hyperspace and they go to the unknown regions. So like he's technically still alive at this point.
No, he's
So
not.
I'm yeah, I know. I
Yoda said
don't
that
like
he
that.
was the last, or that Luke was the last of the Jedi.
Yeah. So I'm a little worried that they're going to bring him into the series and like be
That'd
like,
be
"Oh,
stupid.
he's the Jedi who I found." But yeah, I really hope it's a Luke Skywalker because that would be so much better.
Well, I mean, if that's, I guess, uh, the
I'm not saying I want that to happen. I just think that that's exactly where it's going to go.
well, but there's kind of conflicting advice where it's on the one hand, then you hear from who is it who says that is it the armor woman? The
Yeah.
okay, where she says that she's heard of them and they're the Jedi,
Hmm.
Mhm.
that those are his people.
Yeah.
Right.
But like those are not his people.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm saying like yeah, but what because on the one hand it's like Mandalorians are not an ethnicity, they're a creed. And so it's very similar to Jedi. Jedi are not an ethnicity, they're a creed. Um, but what do you mean then with his people? Because are you saying that every baby Yoda creature has to become a Jedi? Because I think that it would be far more interesting. Because I'm saying, like, to me, this whole idea of like Luke Skywalker being the only Jedi and like bringing it, like, I don't care. This is the stupidest thing ever. Like, we already know exactly what happens to Luke. We don't know anything
Yeah.
about Yoda creatures.
Hmm.
So
Right.
take this in a direction, like, stop like going for. I just don't want to see them try to like tie it together in a way that's completely unsurprising. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and he's on the island and he's training people, and I guess you can drop off the baby and then be like, there, you've got one of these. And then the whole question's going to be, then what happened to this baby Yoda by the time of the newer movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead, if they go like finding like, I don't know, a small little clan of Yoda creatures,
Hmm.
that would be
Yeah.
far more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree that that would be far more interesting. I think that that could be like because I just I don't want it to be all about, oh yeah, here, like, we're gonna drop off the Yoda creature to Luke Skywalker. But I just feel like that's definitely where they're gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Um,
And they're still
even
going
if
to
I don't
screw
want
it
it to
up
go there.
I
Yeah.
because
don't know.
Disney has got Stormtrooper
Yeah.
aim. So if they're
Yeah.
going to say, here's the
Right.
thing that we're aiming at, you're going to say, okay. And they're going to go, watch how bad we miss. And it's like, great. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's where
my
I'm at
only
with this
other
because the whole thing is supposed to be set up like tonally. Then this was set up as, and as far as iconography at the beginning, then this is a Western. And I
right.
like the idea because Star Wars, the reason why I like Star Wars is not because it's an action sci-fi story. I like it because
Yeah.
it's a space opera. And I like, but then they just abandon this in so many different ways. You know, especially with what Disney has done with the newer trilogy. But then this one is, takes such great pains to establish itself as different and tonally and as far
Mhm.
as theme and genre that this is basically a Western in space. And then they just abandoned this after episode 2 and now it's just going in entirely predictable directions, and it's frustrating because even this whole man with no name, oh, we'll give him a name. We don't see his face. We'll show you his face. And then it's like he's this solitary figure who can't trust anyone, except now he can trust droids, and he's got his crew of people. And it's like everything that was interesting is now uninteresting. They killed everything that was interesting about the premise, and now it's just like, oh, great. And now we're just going to get pulled into traditional Star Wars stuff where it's all about the Jedi again. And I'm like, I don't care about the Jedi because Disney killed it. Killed the lore of the Jedi as far as I'm concerned. And so instead of it being this whole other group of people, then it's like, ooh, we've got to reunite him with, the Jedi. Those are his people, even though I would just like to see a separate story. That if you've got a universe as big as what we have with Star Wars, and you say there's so many different stories going on in this universe, the Jedi are only one story, the Skywalkers are only one story, and if they pull this into the Skywalker stuff at all, and if they're pulling this into Jedi stuff at all, then I'm just like, so it's just more Jedi stuff, but that's to me what's frustrating. Like if you're looking, and I know Tyler, you want to jump in. I just want to finish my thought here, and then I want to hear what you have to say. That if you're looking at something like Star Trek, then if you're looking at all the different iterations of Star Trek, then basically each series has explored a different interesting aspect of the universe in which Star Trek is taking place within. So if you're looking at the original series, you have a lot of kind of standalone episodes and all of that, but a lot of it has to do with, like, you get into the storylines with the Vulcans and with the Klingons, but then Next Generation very much focuses, like, one of the big storylines is focusing in on the Borg. But you've also got issues with, like, the Ferengi and the Romulans, and then Voyager deals with all kinds of different groups. You know what I mean? Deep Space Nine is dealing with different stuff. It's not continually returning to, but the interesting thing is the Klingons. And it always comes back to the Klingons. And it always comes back to the Klingons. But that's what this feels like. It feels like no matter how much you tease us that this is going to show us a different story, it's always going to come back to the Skywalkers. It's always going to come back to the Jedi. Which I'm not saying that's not a big, important story, but it doesn't feel like it's a big, important story for a space Western about a solitary figure who can't trust anyone, and he's going to go alone. And except he's not, except for 2 episodes.
Right. Yeah. So my only thing is, as far as I understand, and I feel like this is now like the legends and not officially canon, but the Sith were originally not just a creed, but they were like a nationality. Is that correct?
Ethnicity?
Yes.
Ethnicity, yes, thank you. So my thought is that perhaps the Jedi are the same, and that Yoda creatures are, like, their species name is actually Jedi.
Oh, okay.
And so then that expanded into a whole creed, similar to what we're seeing with the Mandalorians, where, yes, there are people from Mandalore, but then there are other people who have been brought into that creed and also referred to as Mandalorians. So I think that could be something fun to explore.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll do it or not, but I would appreciate that. And then, it would really make Yoda really awesome, because he is, one of the last, or presumably one of the last actual Jedi by ethnicity.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot more interesting.
Yeah, that would be. It would open up really interesting storylines. And for that reason, this is not going to happen.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so I feel like we've basically talked about predictions and all of that and where this thing's going.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else to add?
Season 2 will come out, right? It's
yeah, we've talked about that. I don't know.
The only thing I have to add is I don't know how many seasons they can keep this up, like they can actually go for that make it interesting.
Yeah.
I cannot see it going past 3, and I hope it doesn't. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what other series they do. But yeah, I just hope that they don't overdo this one.
Yeah, I just like I say, the thing I agree with you, but I feel like it didn't have to be this way. It's that I don't understand. I can't make sense of this season because how do episodes 1 and 2 fit in with the rest of this at all?
Yeah.
And so why would you spend? And this is like the issue, and this is why I'm kind of blasting Disney because people have said this about the Disney trilogy that there's no cohesion to it, to
Yeah.
the films and the storylines, and they all are just it's you're getting what we talked about, Tyler, you and I, what we talked about with Stranger Things. You get tonal whiplash. It's
Yeah.
establishing a certain tone, and then no, it's a totally different tone, and then no, it's a totally different tone, and that just to me, it's unforgivable from something that should have the level of talent that this show has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I the resources, like everything that every independent filmmaker and like all screenwriters want to have, you've got all the resources available. You've got an incredible budget, incredible casting. Everybody who you ask will want to be involved with this show, right? That you've got everything going for you, and in terms of like having a writing team and everything else, and then you say we have no idea what the show is. We don't know if it's standalone episodes of Xena Warrior Princess. We don't know if it's a really sophisticated space western, and there's going to be very little dialogue, and he's this solitary figure. And don't tell me that you can't make an entire series out of that, because if you watch the spaghetti westerns from the 1960s, then you're going to say, oh yeah, you definitely can. You could definitely put something on screen for 10 hours, because you could watch a whole bunch of those and you'll easily get to a 10-hour runtime and say, we've got like 40 pages of dialogue over this entire thing. But they're so fun and they're so interesting that why establish all of that to then abandon it in the middle and then get into very traditional, there's the stormtroopers, there's the bad guy for the Empire, we're going to have a shootout with our crazy cast of characters. That's why I'm
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I do not like that execution.
Yeah. All right, so I've just got a couple quick notes that I wanted to throw out here. One is that we do get a Bacta infusion. That's what IG-11 refers to and Bacta tanks are a thing in they're at least a thing in the Star Wars Battlefronts, and I'm pretty sure they're in a bunch of other things, but it's just interesting to like actually see that. And I'm not sure, but I feel like that's what Luke Skywalker was floating in Empire Strikes Back.
That is what he was in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of interesting to get a Bacta infusion, which apparently is just a spray now. It seems much better than.
It doesn't even sound like Star Wars. This just sounds like I'm watching daytime TV with the commercials that they have. Do you know what I mean? It's like, are you feeling sluggish and worn down? Get a Bacta infusion.
Right.
You no longer need a prescription for it. Instead, call whatever, and it'll be delivered discreetly to your door.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess this is like we've already established that there's force healing, and now we're like, and this is droid healing, and so then it continues to lower the stakes, though, doesn't it? It's like I've suffered a mortal wound, except not really, because there's basically no mortal wounds anymore. It's like, perfect, Disney, you got it. That's exactly what we want. No stakes. That's going to achieve suspense.
Well, that does bring me to my other point. Well, Nick Nolte's character, apparently is actually dead.
We don't see him get buried. We just see the pile of rocks with his helmet I still believe he's alive.
I do too. I'm not gonna lie. I still think I was waiting for like the rocks to tremble and him to be like, bro, my species has extra strength, whatever. Like,
And then-
He'll
I
come
wouldn't
back
do
as
it.
a Force ghost in season 2.
Right. This is what happens. This is what I'm saying. Like the thing is, and we are gonna have a discussion about it. I guess we've basically decided that we are gonna talk about the Rise of Skywalker. But this is Star Wars did such a good job of having consequences. That in the original trilogy, Obi-Wan, doesn't come back. He comes back as like a Force ghost, but that's it. You're sure that the Emperor's dead because that really made sense and it concluded things. And then like now it's becoming the MCU of even when they're dead, they're not dead. We're just gonna come up with different contrived plot points to bring back these people. So I'm saying it just this pose is what happens. You just go, yeah, he's dead until he's not, because nothing means anything. That's the problem. So you can't, because I said it with the MCU, like you would have to be just I don't know. I'm trying so hard not to be insulting, but if you weep when all of the characters float away into dust, even though you know there's going to be a new Spider-Man movie coming up, then I'm going, I don't know what to do for you.
All right. One final point. They really missed, it was a real missed opportunity to not include Boba Fett in that flashback. I mean, come on. That would be fun. Because it would be before he fell into the Sarlacc pit, right?
Yeah.
Like, that would have been, during, I guess, the original trilogy days, or not the original trilogy, but, before the original trilogy, the prequel trilogies. Trilogy. I think that...
Boba Fett, where he's just like a little 10-year-old. We could have seen that.
Yeah, that could have been fun. And I did kind of think that they were doing that when, the doors of that cellar thing first opened. I was like, wait, that's the antenna thing that Boba Fett has. Maybe this is oh, no, it's not Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it until we get a season 2.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for watching, and please comment below and let us know what you think of all of this and predictions for season 2 and everything else. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
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 Ignore the bell, people. We're gonna keep going. We're still ignoring it. Don't worry. I don't know what that... I think that's the fire drill. All right. We're gonna go home. Yeah, all right. We're done.